Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our second webinar in the Enterprise Go Digital series. We understand because of the bad weather, many might not be able to join on time owing to connection or other issues, but they will be most welcome to join as we go along. Our webinar today entitled The Digital Ecosystem, How to Bridge the Gap to Make Way for Higher Productivity and Excellence, will shed light on the link between digitalization and productivity. Our speakers will focus on how digitalization can boost up productivity and how we can create that environment that leads to a higher productivity through digitalization. The webinar will be divided into 3 slots. So the first 2 will be covered by our 2 speakers, while the third slot will be for question and answers. So keep your questions ready towards the end of the session. Our first speaker today is Mr. Vicent Bourelly. Mr. Bourelly is the Chief Operating Officer of Elitis since 1st July 2015. He was previously the channel lead for Microsoft Indian Ocean Islands. Without much delay, I will now invite Mr. Bourelly for his presentation. Mr. Bourelly, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and welcome to all participants, and thank you for having me to present here. I would start by sharing my presentation. So I hope that everyone can see. Great. So the introduction has been done. So no need to present myself, except to just humbly say that I'm not here to pretend to be a digital expert, but I just want to share my experience as a player in the IT industry for some time now, more than 30 years, and hope that make it very simple for benefit of everyone on this call. So what I want to show is digitalization is no longer good to have, but is something that we need to have to survive, especially in the SME sector. And the pandemic did not change what was going to happen, but just accelerated it, and what the trend was already. Today, it's no longer just brick and mortar to be able to do your business. Some will still continue to do it, but will face some issues at one point in time. And digitalization doesn't mean, people tend to talk about digitalization by just doing digital marketing, social media marketing, but it's more profound than this. It's a complete change of your business model that needs to happen for the proper digitalization to happen. So the SMEs need to reinvent how they are doing business right now. And the good news is that digitalization is facilitated by a number of tools and facilities that are available to all these SMEs today, and that were not reachable for them before. I will explain a bit later what I'm talking about. So what I want to cover today is quickly most of the challenges, the biggest challenges faced by SMEs today are how to embark on this digitalization, how to modernize, but still optimizing the cost, because SMEs do not necessarily have the means to go like large corporates. And second question, which is linked, is how to get access to the financing. Third is how to reach potential customers, because you have to be visible to be able to get new customers and touch more and more customers. And finally, it's also important to understand how to acquire new skills required for digitalization. So how to modernize? Today, with the cloud technologies, it allows SMEs to have access to enterprise-grade solutions without having to invest a single rupee in infrastructure. When I mean infrastructure, I'm talking about previously to have an enterprise solution, you needed to have a server and then someone to manage this IT for you internally, and all the associated costs. And with the cloud solutions today and the use of paper use, you can have your email, your storage, your communications, online payment facilities, even your accounting for invoicing purposes, for instance, everything sitting on the cloud. So a company can start a business with one laptop and one internet connection and have access to all these features without needing a server room and all the bells and whistles that used to come with it. So it's not only the SMEs that use it, the cloud, on the large corporates as well do it, but more in a hybrid situation where they have both, part of it on premise and part of it on the cloud. But the SMEs, especially the new ones created, can be born in the cloud and have everything in the cloud to be able to use all these tools without having to invest anything and just pay for what you've been using. This also allows something that has been become more and more prevalent during the pandemic, is work from home. So today, a number of people, and it's not only for people working for large corporate, but also like people working for themselves or people in small enterprises, have to work from home for health reasons or for other reasons. Work from home is not new, but it's more prevalent now. And all these tools that have improved during this pandemic, but also existed before, allows SMEs not only to work from home, but actually work from anywhere. And this is the beauty of the cloud. Just need an internet connection, and you can be seated in a food court or at your place or at a customer place in a small room, and just having your internet connection, which you can get from your smartphone, for instance, not necessarily from being connected to a Wi-Fi of a company or something like that, and you can have access to everything. And I was mentioning as well in the beginning, the need to have someone to manage your IT, if you have server, etc., to employ someone. Today, many IT providers provide what we call like CTO, Chief Technology Officer. It's quite an exaggeration, I would say, in using the term, but CTO as a service facility. So, which means that you don't have to hire someone; you just buy what you need to perform your work, subscribe to the cloud services that you need, and then have your IT provider to manage this IT for you if you are not able to do it yourself. Some would be more skilled and would be able to manage their IT themselves, but most of the SMEs would need someone like that. And same, it's a service. Everything goes on OPEX and not CAPEX. Second problem is how to get financing. So the internet and the digitalization has brought forward many new ways to get financing. I know that it's not only in Mauritius, but it's also the same elsewhere. It's going through the banks can be tedious and can have a lot of hurdles, and some of them can be even impossible to go through. And today with crowdfunding, and we have, I won't say the names, but we have a few crowdfunding companies that have started to do business in Mauritius, and a number of SMEs have been able to get funding through the crowdfunding for investment into new equipment, for even getting some cash flow to start their business, or to tackle a new market. It can be small amounts of 100,000 rupees to 200,000 rupees, or to up to 1-2 million. And the companies have facilities through these crowdfunding organizations to get financing, the financing needs for their projects to go through with very quickly and without having to go through all these hassles at the bank. One other aspect as well in terms of financing, so getting investment funds is one thing, but also managing your cash flow and making sure that your cash flow is always good, or as good as it can be, is also facilitated now with the fact that when you do business, SMEs doing business online, can also use online payment facilities now, which gives much better control over what is happening and get a more secure way to get your funds and improve your cash flow. The part that is how to reach customers is probably the more visible part and the most impressive part in terms of digitalization. So digital marketing is now the norm. It's no longer as well something nice to do, but it's more the mainstream, and it's easily accessible to SMEs. As I said earlier, being visible is the key. And for that, SMEs needs to understand or to have someone, again, who can help them easily to see how they can be more visible on the internet, on the social medias, and through all the digital communication media. So there are tools like search engine optimization, which can sound like Greek to some of us SMEs, but very easily done by some even some junior marketing people now, and some marketing consulting firms that offer these services, just to make sure that when someone, for instance, is into furniture in Mauritius, when you type Google and you type furniture Mauritius, but your name, but your company name appears on top of a list. This is what we call search engine optimization, which is very important if you want to be as much visible as possible. Social media marketing brings a lot of opportunities, but also a lot of dangers. But we need, SMEs need to be aware. The social media communication and marketing needs to be really tackled properly. Otherwise, you can go completely the unproductive way. So, as I said, I always tell that to the staff where I work. There's only one opportunity to make a first good impression. The second one is the second impression. It's no longer the first one. So, making sure that all the customers that you touch through the social media have the best experience possible is key, because satisfied customers usually stay quiet, but unsatisfied customers are very vocal, if I can say so. But and they can write bad reviews and even almost bully your company on the social media. So it's very dangerous, and you need to make sure that it's properly managed and that you don't rush to social media advertising and marketing and proposing your services through social media if you're not 100% sure of how you're going to tackle your customers from the start to the finish, and make sure that the experience is fully well tackled. E-commerce is also one aspect, but which is a bit further, where you would invest a bit more into intangible assets like e-commerce website, etc. But again, this you need to be ready to that. In some other countries, you have marketplace where you can join the marketplace. Amazon is one example. Unfortunately, this Amazon like that is not available in Mauritius yet, but I know that there are projects and that are going to be happening very soon, where some of the best marketplace in Mauritius are going to offer place for SMEs who want to sell their products through them. So this is also another way to go digital without having to get the investment and going through the hassle of setting up an e-commerce website. And finally, data is the new oil. Managing your data, how you collect your data, how you use it, how you protect your data is the fundamentals to successful digital marketing, because that's what it makes the power of social media, for instance, is the information that they manage and how they treat it to make sure that you tackle the right audience, the right targets, etc., etc. So I'll try to go a bit faster because I know that I have only 15 minutes. And finally, acquire new skills can seem to be a bit of a challenge for a number of SMEs. But today, the pandemic has also accelerated the online training offering and grown the offering as well, and allows anyone to attend courses, being in Mauritius or elsewhere, in any country. and the quality of this training has drastically improved. The idea being acquiring new skills and not necessarily getting diplomas or certificates and stuff like that. It's more like skills needed to do your job or to master how to digitalize your company. And also, we should not forget that work from home has created a new pool of people offering their services on very specific skills, and which allows SME to easily outsource some of his tasks without having to train or hire someone. So let's say, for instance, I use an example of SEO, search engine optimization. You don't need to hire someone to do your search engine optimization. It's very specific, very technical, and you just need to hire someone outsourced who specializes in this service. And we have much more people doing that kind of business as well. So for SMEs, it's a new way to touch customers, but also an opportunity as well to create new businesses for those who are in the process of entrepreneurship. Digital services is a new trend that needs special skills, and you can also have your business offering these skills to other SMEs or other customers. So I use my 15 minutes. I hope I was clear enough and that this was helpful. So I'll go back to talk to Dibesh. I'll just stop my.
Yes. So thank you, Mr. Bourelly. That was really very insightful and enriching in terms of information. We'd ask you actually keep your questions for the question and answer sessions. I'll ask you to remain, Mr. Bourelly, I'll ask you to remain online. We have the pleasure now to call upon Mr. Sandeep Chagger to make his presentation. Mr. Chagger is the country director for Peach Payments in Mauritius. He has over a decade of long experience in diverse business fields. He's a chartered alternative investment analyst with a degree in engineering. That's quite interesting. The floor is now yours, Mr. Chaga.
Thank you, Devesh. Just wanted to do a quick check. Is my screen visible? Okay, perfect. I understand that. Yes, it is visible. So firstly, thank you, NPCC. This is a great initiative, and as the name suggests, Enterprise Go Digital. This is definitely, the buzzword today, and I'm happy to share my views on the digital ecosystem. What I do, I am the country director of Peach Payments. I'll talk more about the organization towards the end, but it's interesting to put some context for the SME, right? And see this opportunity from the perspective of an SME, right? And if we look at a few years back, what was happening, right? The old school business operating model, and just benchmark on this old school of business operating model. So I'll take a step-by-step approach. If there are SMEs attending and who have been in the business for quite some time, they will associate with what this model is. So previously, what used to happen is that all our records, all the business records, whether it is customer records, inventory, paper, inventory, and accounts, they were on paper, spreadsheets, and softwares which were on premise, right? And to maintain or to access, you have to be on the site so that you can access all of that information, right? There was a heavy investment into logistics. Let's say if you're talking about a company selling products, right, they have to create their own delivery mechanism. Outsourcing was pretty much expensive for such SMEs, right? And the cost per sale used to go up. The decisions that the SMEs were taking were based on opinion of leadership and very minimal data. I saw Vicent saying that data is the new oil, and we'll come to it in terms of what what is the context of the same statement today. Mostly when you start a business, you needed an office space for staff to operate, and there's an ecosystem created in the organization that is through physical presence. Most of the marketing was happening on print media, radio, and billboards. Sales were mainly physical and over the counter, right? So what was happening is that it made the entire business model very restrictive for it to scale, right? And over the years, in the last few years, what has happened is that we've evolved into the new age business operating model, which is not totally online, but it is a combination of offline to online, right? And today, how we measure is that what percentage or what degree of my business is online and what degree is offline, right? And every business has to understand the right balance with regard to offline and online. So one thing that Vincent mentioned, that cloud systems have evolved in the last couple of years, right, which allow you to manage your finances better because your investment is in the form of an operating expense rather than a capital expense. Today, all my inventory as a business that is selling any product or service can be managed on an ERP tool, right? My entire accounting can be done on an ERP tool. I don't need to even have an in-house accountant. I can outsource that job, and he or she can manage the entire system and all the details, right? And I have access to this data anywhere, anytime. Even if I'm not in the country, as a business owner, one can see what is happening in the business, what is the inventory record, how are the customers transacting, what are the overall cash flow statements, what does the balance sheet look like, or what is the income statement. Today, logistics can be outsourced to low-cost experts. Entrepreneurs have filled in the gaps, wherever there is a challenge. This is the entrepreneurial age. A lot of young startups are coming up to solve day-to-day problems, right? And this has helped entrepreneurs a great deal. If we look at Mauritius as an example, there are multitude of logistics companies that are providing low-cost services for delivery, which makes it even more easier for any entrepreneur selling products to get started without investing in capex, right? Because most of the systems are online, you have a lot of data points which allow you to take better decisions, more informed decisions, and your decisions are more based on data rather than on opinions, right? And I think COVID has made us all familiar with this new concept, which is called work from home. And in the last couple of years, we saw a lot of co-working spaces coming up. So you don't really need to set up a working place, to manage your business until and unless you're physically selling the product. And the only space that as a product company you would require is to store your inventory, right? And as Vincent also mentioned, today, most of the marketing is happening via digital platforms. There's marketing happening via Google through search engine optimization or search engine marketing. Facebook has more than 800,000 users in Mauritius, right? And Facebook advertisements is a widely and predominantly used marketing tool or platform by most of the SMEs. Instagram is growing in Mauritius. To our surprise, TikTok has all of a sudden grown a lot in Mauritius. And a lot of the young startups or small one-person companies or people who started a small business from their garage are promoting their business on all of these social media platforms, including TikTok. And e-commerce has come up. The number of new websites that are coming up in Mauritius has grown tremendously. So e-commerce is also a sort of a showcase of your products to the wider community, which is marketed through social media. It is, as compared to a couple of years ago, today it is easy to set up an e-commerce site. You can go to any of the platforms, whether it is Shopify, Wix, WooCommerce, or Magento, and you can just set up your store in a day or two. It is that easy. Sometimes I tell people that it's more difficult to understand Microsoft Excel than it is to create your own website. So anybody can do it themselves, and most of the young startups are doing most of their e-commerce website creation themselves. But at the same time, we are seeing an upsurge in the digital agencies, right? Web development agencies who at a reasonable cost can also help you develop your own e-commerce website. So business, I mean, all in all, this is the way of doing business has evolved, from a totally offline to an offline plus online model. And businesses themselves are using data to understand that what percentage needs to be managed offline and what percentage online. And coming to, if you look at the old school business operating model and the new age business operating model side by side, what we have experienced is that the old school model was capital intensive, right? It was difficult to start because you needed to have basic infrastructure to set up your business. It was heavily manual. All the processes were managed manually. I've seen offices where, a good percentage of the office space is being taken up by all the files, which may be invoices, receipts, or accounting papers. And today, all of that is digital. All of that is managed by systems. Most of the activities in the old school business operating model were in-source. That means, we hired people to do most of the activities. And one of the major restrictions or impediments to growth were that geographical scalability was difficult. Now, what has happened today? Right? Today we have options that we can if someone wants to start a new business, they can get started with basic savings. We interact with a lot of e-commerce companies, and we are seeing people starting businesses from their garage or from their home and creating an e-commerce site and doing well, right? This is something that they're either running in parallel or they're running, with bare minimum investments. It's easy to start, right? Because the business is predominantly digital. And most of the non-core functions are outsourced. They are outsourced either to technology in the form of an ERP, or they're outsourced to logistics companies where you have to do deliveries, or to experts who do your digital marketing or accounting, right? So the main focus of the business is on the core product, right? Or the core value proposition, which makes it easy to scale. Right. So what is digitization? What are the transformations that are happening, around us? So if I have to pen down or discuss point by point, one of the major innovations that has happened is cloud-based technology. Right now, what is cloud-based technology? Cloud means that cloud is a term used for a common server that can be accessed by multiple organizations anytime, anywhere via the internet. Right. So if we take an example, today we've got cloud-based accounting systems, we've got cloud-based inventory management systems. Even the websites are becoming cloud-based. The website platforms, right? I can go on a Shopify and create my own website. I don't have to buy a server. I can Shopify provides space, just using it as an example, or even I can purchase space on the cloud to host my information, whether it is website, whether it is accounting system, or any form of any tool that I'm using on a digital platform. So cloud has mainly transformed. It has made access to information from anywhere and anytime. It is highly secure and it is cost effective. Some of the tools that if we search on the internet, we can get a full-fledged accounting tool for as low as maybe $10 or 400 rupees a month, right? And which performs most of the functions that a young organization would require. And we don't need to invest into heavy systems. The second is software as a service. Today, we can subscribe to most of these cloud-based technologies, whether it is an accounting system, whether it is an inventory management system, whether it is an e-commerce platform that I'm using. I can just subscribe to that service, and the expense for me as an organization is in the form of operating expense, OPEX, and not CapEx, right? So when it is in the form of OpEx, I know that I'm also generating business to meet their cost, or there's potential of generating business to meet those costs, right? I'm not investing upfront and then waiting for the return to happen, right? There are a lot of startups that are finding solutions to market gaps, right? The number of startups, this is the entrepreneurial age, right? I mean, if we look at Mauritius in the last couple of years, the number of technology companies or logistics companies or delivery companies have come up. It is phenomenal, right? And we can outsource our deliveries. If you want to sell a product, delivery system can be totally outsourced. Digital marketing can be totally outsourced. Web development can be outsourced. So this is the era of collaboration, with all of these startups. The next is payment innovation, right? I mean, the number of payment methods that are coming up, and the e-commerce payment gateways that are emerging. This is leading to a cashless society. And with all the data points and innovation in credit finance, there's easy access to credit. In addition to that, there's an open technology architecture, right? We can connect to any platform. If I'm having a website on Shopify, I can integrate it with an accounting system or an inventory system so that, a shop functioning and an e-commerce store functioning is synchronized. All the inventory is synchronized at all levels. So most of these new age technologies are open architecture, easy for us to integrate between each other and have seamless flow of information. Then some of the new things that are coming up are blockchain, NFT, digital currencies. And I mean, the innovation is continuing. The innovation is continuing, but we've covered pointers which are just the leading indicators of what's happening today for SMEs. Now, one key statement is that major shifts need major trigger events, right? And what have been these trigger events that have accelerated digitization? In 2016, there was a heavy growth of digital payments or online payments, or we may call it as mobile payments in India. Now, that major shift happened because of a major trigger event, which was demonetization. The government stopped the usage of big notes, and there was a lack of cash. And everybody switched to mobile payment methods. And ever since, it has just become popular and one of the most predominantly used mode of payment in the country. Now, another major trigger event is COVID-19, right, which accelerated digitization in a big way. Like what happened during COVID-19, right? There's a new phenomena that emerged, which was work from home, right? We needed more connectivity. We needed systems that could connect with people virtually so that they can efficiently work from home. E-commerce grew phenomenally. There were web agencies that sprung up in every city, or even every street, because there were so many websites and online platforms that were coming up. The online and mobile payment ecosystem evolved. The road towards the journey of being cashless started emerging. There were delivery companies to help most of the product sellers. There were virtual connections that were being made. Most of the events were happening on Zoom, Google Meets, or Microsoft Teams. Offices were functioning fully through these virtual connections. Cards became no-touch payments. You could just tap your card and make a payment, right? So all in all, there was an acceleration of digitization that was triggered with COVID-19. And I mean, what happened in the e-commerce space? If you look at which are the sectors that grew the most, SaaS-based platforms, people started taking these services of online platforms. I mean, to access most of the systems which are on premise, you have to be physically present, and access is restricted. So a lot of organizations shifted from on-premise to cloud-based platforms, where anybody could access an entire organization from anywhere, right? And the other aspect, communication was the other growth area of growth for e-commerce, especially with subscriptions on Zoom and most of these online meeting technologies. So organizations started investing into that. Educational institutions started investing into that. So COVID-19 completely changed the dynamics of e-commerce sectors. The low performers became high performers. The high performers, such as tourism, leisure, and entertainment, became low performers. So there was an entire reshuffle of the dynamic. And what really happened post-COVID is that the user behavior was transformed, right? So all of this change made a lot of users become, they started understanding what's happened. I mean, the digital way of transaction or digital ways of execution. They became comfortable with buying online, transacting online, getting things home delivered, whether it is food, groceries, or any item. And this trend is now continuing because the user has been educated, right, in this era post-COVID. Now this is an interesting graph, and this graph shows tremendous growth post the lockdown. We've mentioned South Africa. There's a reason. So what this graph indicates is the growth in volume that's happening through Peach Payments, the company that I represent. And ever since the first COVID lockdown happened, this company saw phenomenal growth, right? And it's literally an exponential curve that we started seeing as from the first lockdown in 2020. And so who is Peach Payments? Just a quick overview. We enable digital commerce across Africa. We expanded into Mauritius last year in September. And we are a payment company that is mobilizing e-commerce payments. So if there is an e-commerce website or anybody is looking at going online with their business, we power their business by making them accept payments and doing the settlement into their bank account. As I said, that this is the age of open architecture. We are working with most of the payment methods and integrated to MasterCard, Visa, Apple Pay, Google Pay, M-Pesa, PayPal, and introducing more and more local options in whichever country that we are expanding to. If you set up a website on WooCommerce, Shopify, Wix, Magento, PrestaShop, or run a hotel on Room Raccoon or ResRequest, we are already integrated. A company, doing business on these platforms only needs to activate us by a click of a button. And yes, so our endeavor is that we help SMEs in their growth journey by being a partner for digital commerce or being their payment partner to run the business. And today we are trusted by some of the leading businesses in Africa, including Zando, which is the largest marketplace. Train is one of the leading telecom players in South Africa, Pick n Pay, Adamex, and so on and so forth. And as we expand into Mauritius, we already have 50 plus organizations that are using our services in the country. And yes, to end it all, this is the age of digital entrepreneurship. This is the age of SME because, more and more SMEs will come up because of the ease of starting a business and the ease of scaling a business. There's expertise available everywhere for a business to really grow and thrive. So on that note, and in the interest of time, I would like to thank you. My name is Sandeep. This is my email ID in case you want to get in touch. And I'll pass it on to the NPCC team. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Sandeep, for your presentation and insights. As you say, it's easy to start a business, but I guess it's a real challenge actually to bring about the business to a profitable level, especially for many actually in these times. Well, that's another debate. Dear participants, we now move further. Kindly note that we have an online survey that we are conducting in the context of the Enterprise Go Digital project. We're inviting you to participate in this survey. You can click or save the link below, in the chat box to take part in the survey. So I'll just ask my colleague Sneha to please post the link in the chat box so that you may have it from there. In the meantime, we will now be heading for some questions. Let's have a look at what we have in our hands right now. So we've got a few questions from our participants. One of the first participants to have a set of questions was Miss Vedita Bechu. Let's see what she is asking for as an answer. So here goes. In which domain can SMEs use enterprise solutions, and which applications can they use for that purpose? Perhaps Sandeep himself can answer that, or Vincent?
So if I understand the question correct, I think this was a statement that Vincent also used, that today enterprise solutions are accessible to a lot of companies because of their availability on cloud and on a subscription-based model. And so today we can use accounting systems, we can use inventory management systems, we can use digital marketing systems, right, which are enterprise, or payment systems, including Peach payments, right, which are enterprise grade solutions, but accessible to the smallest of organizations, because you don't have to invest into CapEx, right? And you can, with an operating expense, month-on-month subscription or an annual subscription, you can get started.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can just add what I meant by having access to these enterprise solutions was what, just to give you an example, in the past, to be able to have, let's say, storage, you needed to have a server, invest into infrastructure, and when storage was full, you had to buy new disks to put into this server and all the maintenance and everything. So now you can have online storage, just pay a subscription. If your storage is full, you just pay a little more and they increase that storage for you immediately, and everything from not even day one, from minute one, you can get access to this without having any technical knowledge. That's what I call enterprise type solution, but are easily available for even the starting entrepreneur, one-man show. That's what I was meaning.
Thanks for that, Vincent. We have a second question now coming from Mr. Vinay Kanai of Kanai Foods. He's asking, what is the budget to outsource the digital marketing with social media management and SEO? And he's asking for any recommendation for an SME in terms of CRM or accounting software for an SME.
Okay, that's difficult to quantify like that, because the budget to outsource digital marketing depends on what kind of marketing you want to do. I mean, to which level you want to go with your marketing. There is a minimum cost when you want to have what we call sponsored posts, for instance, on social media, which is very minimal. This is something that you can do yourself, but also effectively, if I understand the question, you're talking about outsourcing. You have people who can manage this for you. So small other SMEs like ourselves, we can just pay someone who will manage all this for you, and you just have to provide them with your content and what you want to do. And the good thing as well is with the online tools, you can schedule things. So for instance, a digital campaign can be completely scheduled 1 week in advance, and on a specific day and time, the posts are automatically put online for your campaign. So this is something that was unavailable before, and which is almost natural now to do.
Thanks, Vincent. Let's go for some more questions now. We have a question about the laws coming up. There has been quite much hype about e-commerce and e-business. What about the legal frameworks in Mauritius? What is your reading of our laws in Mauritius? Do they need to be revisited, or are they sufficient to regulate this area, especially in an era marked by the COVID pandemic? Vincent, perhaps you may start yourself with your views.
I'm not a specialist into the legal part, but I think that definitely there will be need for constant improvement or adapt our laws towards the digital changes. Just talking about one thing that was mentioned by Sandeep, he mentioned about blockchain and like things like crypto money, Bitcoin. This is something that is already prevalent, which is a perfect example of digitalization, but still needs to be framed properly by the law. So definitely, yeah, there are things to change, and that will be constant on the legal side.
Just to add
And
to
Sandeep,
that.
what about you?
Yes. So, what is really important in a lot of the digital transactions is data protection, right? And GDPR, that is, the data protection guidelines from EU has, provided guiding light to a lot of the countries, and Mauritius also ensures data secrecy, data security, and data privacy on all these e-commerce sites, right? Any organization can be registered with the data protection office as a controller and controller promoter. And also the second aspect is security. I mean, the security aspect is really very important, right? To ensure high level of security compliance, especially when we are talking about online transactions, right? And there are guidelines by Visa, MasterCard, and regulators in terms of ensuring security standards. Like, just as an example, Each Payments is the PCI DSS level 1 security compliant organization for card transactions, which is the highest level of safety in terms of information security, right? Especially as you're processing card data and transactional data. And the third aspect from a regulatory standpoint is the number of new payment methods that are coming up, right? And Bank of Mauritius has been very progressive from a regulatory standpoint, by introducing MOCAs, by introducing various licenses through which new payment methods and innovative payment methods can come into the country for the consumers as well as for businesses. So yes, I mean predominantly, regulatory and compliance would cover these aspects of an online transaction or of an online business.
Thanks, Sandeep, for your insights. We got now another question, which is related to capital, because we've spoken a bit about cryptocurrencies and all that. Perhaps Ves also can provide his views on that. You see, more online businesses would mean that we will end up having most businesses with fewer tangible capital or no capital at all in some time, actually. If you think like that, theoretically, it might go like this. Would you agree with this, that in some time that businesses would be more online, like brick and mortar businesses will no more exist? So that would mean less capital. What are your views, Sandeep, over that?
So owning tangible assets is not necessarily the asset valuation of an organization. Right. Today, we value an organization in today's day and age, which we may call as a digital age. We value an organization based on its intellectual property. We value an enterprise based on the activity that is being done, the customer base that it has acquired, the market share that it has acquired. I mean, if you look at Facebook, it is purely technology based, right? But it's a multi-billion-dollar company. Right. Today, you've got Uber, which owns not even a single taxi, but it's the world's largest taxi network. We're looking at Airbnb, which is digitally which has the maximum number of rooms in the world, right? Bigger than any hotel chain and much more than all the hotel chains combined. They don't own even a single hotel room, right? So, I mean, the valuation of business depends on the core proposition and the market that the business has acquired, right? So for that, I don't think today we need a physical presence, right? I mean, businesses are expanding into countries where they're not even physically present because they're offering a service via technology and internet.
And what about Vincent? Would you agree with Sandeep?
Yeah, I agree, especially for businesses who can make a living out of online services or even products online. Obviously, the capital would however still be needed for the traditional businesses. Let's say, someone who business is selling pizza, so he would still need to invest into his pizza fire and everything, all the material needed for that. So the goods and the equipment, but on the digital side, there's no longer need for investment. So that's what I think we were trying to make the point when we discuss about going without investment. So you invest in your core business needs, but into your digital needs, there's no longer need for capital investment, except a few, like you would need to buy laptop and monitors and stuff like that to be able to work, but it's not heavy investment.
Okay, that was a good one, Vincent. We now have a question about the human resources talent pool, actually. Do you think that in Mauritius or even in the region, we have the right talent pool to implement the digital infrastructure in Mauritius, or we need to prepare them, or we need more training or something like that? What are your views, Vincent?
Just to understand the question, so you're talking about training specifically?
Yes, actually, I'm talking about the human resources, the talent pool in Mauritius available at the moment. Do you think they are ready for that? They are ready for digitalization? I mean, yes, they might be ready, yes, but do we need like a push up in this area? Just to give a better push to the whole industry?
Actually, the answer is a bit in between. I think the quality, the level of understanding of digital matters by the population in general has drastically improved. So it's like self-training, or in-school training, or peer-to-peer learning, stuff like that. I think, but the IT industry, the industry which I'm in, faces a huge gap into skilled resources. So companies who offer IT services in Mauritius struggle to find qualified people. So there is a definite need for this type of resources. And a number of companies I know in the sector are even hiring people from outside of Mauritius.
Just to cut to here, actually, Vincent, you've spoken about the level of understanding of the talent pool in Mauritius here. Do you think there is a gap between academia and the industry in understanding what they really want, or there is a mismatch somewhere?
I think it's a long debate to have, but my personal view on that is that academic is necessary. But it needs to be complemented by professional training. So we need both. And when you have people who have both, then you have the best talented, skilled workforce to work with.
Sandeep, what would you say about this?
Well, yes. Technology is advancing at a pace that we all have to catch up, and even in the previous roles that I've been, we found it a bit difficult in terms of finding talent for some of the technology implementations locally, and had to outsource beyond Mauritius. So definitely it's a matter of right skilling and, having enough. I mean, as we progress, technology is going to evolve, and the skills need to be developed. And I remember when I was doing engineering, there was a saying that by the time you're done with engineering, what you've studied is already obsolete, right? So that's what Vincent rightly said, that while the education is important, working in a practical live environment is also, is something that will add up to the skill. But what is important is that that base needs to be there. There needs to be enough technology professionals being produced by the education sector who can be absorbed by organizations in Mauritius. So there is a gap.
Thanks, Sandeep. Dear participants, our second webinar in the Enterprise Go Digital series comes to an end now. We hope that you've been able to get a good insight into the realms of digitalization and its connection with productivity and excellence. We thank our two speakers today, namely Mr. Vicent Bourelly and Mr. Sandeep Chagger, to have taken out their time to conduct the webinars. Ladies and gentlemen, we now end this session and invite you to stay tuned on our website and Facebook page for our upcoming webinars in the Enterprise Go Digital series. Kindly note that our next webinar is entitled How Going Digital Can Uphold Sustainability in Business, which will be conducted on the 8th of April 2022. So save the date. We will be communicating the details as from Monday. Have a pleasant weekend, you all, and keep safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.